Welcome back, folks. Pulsechain, Pulsex, and HEX. What is the next move? Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, firstly, I'm just going to give you my opinion. You're not watching my videos because you don't want my opinion, right? I'm going to be direct. I'm going to be to the point. I'm going to tell you my take on the situation. If you don't agree, that's absolutely fine. Take my viewpoint for what it is, marry it up against all the other viewpoints, and decide for yourself which way you're leaning on this. So with that being said, for anyone not already in this ecosystem, if you haven't yet taken a position in either of the three main tokens available, at least, in a nutshell, here's kind of the lay of the land. The founder, Richard Hart, founded an initial token in advance of the last crypto cycle called HEX. You may be familiar with it. Now, despite lots of fudding and naysayers who were advocating basically that the founder, probably due to a lot of his eccentricities, and the project itself was a scam, he then proceeded to basically prove them all wrong by delivering what has seemingly been a perfectly working and functional project and token that has no doubt provided a ton of people with literally thousands of X's return on their investment. So that specific token, built on the Ethereum blockchain, has been very, very successful. There is no doubt about it. It has also been the core and beginner project for what can now be considered to be a very diehard and energetic community that believes in Richard's take on the market and how we actually look to attain wealth. Having a very energetic community is a bit of a double-edged sword. Yes, you're going to hear some negatives louder than perhaps you should, but you're also going to get, hopefully, that knock-on effect by the good word and the positivity that spreads due to that belief. All good things, true to course for many projects, ecosystems, and tokens of value. Same with any investment avenue. Now, seeing the downfalls of Ethereum's growth and the high fees that have come along with it, Richard decided to create a new chain himself. And upon the launch of his brand new blockchain called Pulsechain, you may have heard about it, especially if you're watching this channel, that was created to provide a cheaper and faster option to Ethereum, as he saw, and we all saw, Ethereum fees rising dramatically, and decided to take the fundamental principles and tokenomics of his existing blockbuster crypto in HEX, I offer the same new cheaper chain, allowing folks to utilize the coin as it's been shown to be utilized successfully, with the added benefit of not having to pay those higher fees and a lot of the other time necessities that Ethereum demands by being simply so saturated right now, even keeping the same name for this specific token in HEX. Now, obviously, with a new chain comes a new coin. Essentially, Pulsechain is an alternative to Ethereum, works the same way. In fact, the whole thing was an entire system copy of Ethereum, with Pulsechain filling the role of Ethereum, HEX fulfilling the role of itself with cheaper fees, and PulseX, a new invention, being brought to market in the form of a DEX, a decentralized exchange that made the buying and acquiring and swapping and all of that good stuff within the ecosystem faster, cheaper, better, stronger. All good things. Vertically integrated system that sounds fantastic, has a huge runway ahead of it. Definitely a huge value play, in my opinion. Now, at the time, to make things fair and to give the community some free value, this new version of HEX hosted on Pulsechain was created and simultaneously copied over all of the communities, the existing communities holding of the original token, along with every other Ethereum holding token. But this in particular is most important because it is a key component of this ecosystem. And so we could use some common sense and think to ourselves, of all those copied over tokens, the one that's probably going to be one of the more valuable options, aside from some of the ones we're hoping for, like stablecoins and Pulsechain itself, and the coin of Pulsex, is HEX, because we've seen that business model play out. We know the value it brings. Now all we're doing is adding a benefit to this token by making it cheaper to do the things it's meant to do. Staking being one of them. No one wants to pay large amounts to unstake money that you put to work for you that often is negating of the amount you stake in the first place. I don't want to get overcomplicated, but this copy was giving people a free copy of their existing holdings on this new chain that was planning ahead for an easier transition to this new token, while also negating any of the potential negative effects of losing value on Ethereum, on the Ethereum side, compensating by this new Pulsechain version of HEX rising in value. So at the very least, your net value of both copies should be the same, if not exceed what you already had in a worst case scenario. But with adoption means that either way the wind blows and which one the community favored, whether it was the OGs who really like the Ethereum and kind of want to forget about the fees that Ethereum charges because they're used to that, or the new, cheaper, faster, stronger version, which I was leaning toward and many others were, if you knew which way the wind was blowing, as to this one was going to be favored, in which case this would rise in value. You're not losing anything. It's just a simple litmus test that goes on for a period of time to figure out which one is going to be the way forward so we can focus our efforts in promoting that one. Hey, maybe both in a magical situation we're focused on. But aside from the long-term stakes on the original, I think most of us could come to the consensus using a little bit of common sense that the new version of HEX was the one to watch out for, and those copies that you had were going to rise the most in value, and any new investments into that specific token should probably be done on the new shiny version that is a first cycle project. Now, with all that being said, about 9 months later after the launch, after witnessing this obvious preference and price ratio favored inherent within the Pulse Chain HEX, or what is now referred to simply as HEX, Richard, the founder, let his thoughts be known that it seems, as predicted, the community favored this new token due to the obvious advantages the token has and the pain points that it was created to address, exclaiming in no unclear terms that it was, in his view, the better version of that token. This statement has caused folks to resent the founder and the situation they find themselves in. We've had some craziness in the ecosystem over the past few days, causing a lot of division within the community. Folks venting loudly, some gloating loudly, a lot of I told you so's, and a lot of other irrelevant verbalization within a narrative right now that very much needs the focused direction. Many who perhaps hadn't adapted to the new paradigm, weren't reading the winds of change and evolving with them, or simply don't value the chance at the free copy they had of their holdings on this new chain and resent not being able to keep a large value on both chains, perhaps. Everyone has their own viewpoint and stance unique to them, and of course they are entitled to it. This is at least the way I see it, right? You are entitled to your own view. So, with all this context, and at least my interpretation of how things have played out, understanding, of course, that I switched from EHEX, I'll admit, to the newer version pretty much on launch, with my liquid HEX at least, with my stakes just copied and currently riding out on both chains. So perhaps I'm not feeling the same loss others are feeling by showing perhaps preference to EHEX over this period of time. I simply didn't. I thought it was silly not to move in the direction that was obvious to me. Now, what is the plan, or at least my plan moving forward? And I'm hearing advice being dished out to folks to buy this cheap HEX, which to me sounds dumb, for lack of a better word. Why would you buy a token the founder himself has told you is a lesser version? Just because something goes down in value doesn't mean it's cheap. To me, the value is pretty apparent and true after such a blatant exclamation by the person who created it. And if you are so inclined to think there may be an opportunity there to be accumulating this much cheaper token at much lower price points, my take is to at least wait for prices to reach those bottoms that will inevitably be reached before taking a position. There are times, and you may have seen my X post earlier, that there are times that DCAing into a falling price is sometimes unavoidable, right? Just because we're not able to be completely accurate with this stuff. In instances like that, we simply zoom out, understand the fundamental benefits and the unique selling points that we're investing in, and use some common sense, weigh up that balance and think, okay, it's dipping now. I'm DCAing in. I'm not buying it at the top, at least that, and I'll continue to DCA in, hopefully as it climbs again. And I think price is going to go up in the long run. But this ain't one of those times. This is about as clear as it gets, folks. I'm on Twitter or X watching people giving out advice on why you should buy this cheaper token with some very skewed buy signals. Again, just because it's a lot cheaper now doesn't make it buyable. There's more to it than that. The liquidity dry up and the falling price are expected. And I got news for you. If you are on the fence right now, it will continue to drop, not in a straight line, it never does, but it definitely will as we continue to zoom out, at least for the foreseeable future. It's not a time to make a quick trade. We're not going to see any massive ups and downs unless Richard Hart does something crazy, and I'm not ruling that out. Maybe he does, but right now we got to play with the data that we have, and the data we have, to me at least, suggests that buying EHEX is not the move. I could be proven wrong, like I say, of course, because stranger things have happened, but I wouldn't tell anyone to buy a depreciating asset in this capacity right now. The opportunity from a HEX perspective is in the new token. It's also in Pulse and PulseX tokens. They're all cycle one and have a long runway ahead of them and seemingly a better momentum when it comes to value. Why scrape the barrel in your creative thinking, regardless of how creative you are, in trying to see that hard to find value proposition in a token purchase after the founder has told you to your face that it's the wrong option? You either have to be a trading savant, seeing things that no one else is seeing, and I assume that you aren't. Or, quite simply, you're listening to the wrong people. Again, it's just my opinion, but I think if you follow that train of thought, you will be exit liquidity. This space is fast moving and you have to adapt. Yes, whinging about stuff and venting may feel good, but it doesn't service you in any positive manner. Bad energy, regardless of how justified you feel. Move fast and do what's best for your bags. That's the best take and the best lens that I can offer. At least that's what my community is aimed at. We want to make money. We don't want to change the world, at least not in this particular channel. There are ways in which you can do that. Making your own money isn't one of them, unless that's your own specific goal, in which case this isn't the right channel for you. There are communities that focus on that. And you can feel free to tweet in any echo chamber you want, as much negative sentiment as you want, based on your own preferences, right? If you want to feel somewhat vindicated by hearing other negative viewpoints agree with you, it's up to you. But ultimately, in my opinion, it doesn't serve you. Surely you know this. I lost value as well. But that's not going to help me in creating more, right? We focus efforts and charts and adoption strategies based on what should be better and stronger ammunition that's relevant to this cycle. It's an opportunity, not a roadblock if we handle this correctly. Time plays a factor too. Don't let this be, don't let this venting of folks shake you out. Zoom out and understand that sentiment changes with price movement. It always does, regardless of how things feel in the moment. And for the love of God, be careful what advice you're listening to, because the last thing you want to do is be that exit liquidity. But I hope this helped. The dog's barking, so I'm going to go, and I will catch you on the next one.